Hey everyone, welcome to my tutorial on how to set up the Retorarch run-ahead from scratch, the complete comprehensive guide. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to retorarch.com and go to their download page. I'm using Windows 10, sadly. I upgraded, so I'm using 64-bit, that's my OS. If you don't know your OS, you can check in Control Panel, but most computers these days are 64-bit, so that's a pretty safe option. So we are going to use the installer and get installed here. Nothing too complicated about that, but I wanted to start from the beginning to show you this is a clean install. Everything I'm doing, you can follow along exactly what I'm doing. If there's some boring parts of this video and dead air and stuff, I apologize, but I guess that's the nature of a complete comprehensive guide. There is a version where you can get just the folder, but I like to install it. I feel more comfortable with that. I feel like it might run better, probably not, but I just like to install it. So here we have it opened, and first thing I'm going to do is actually close it. Forget it. So what I want to start off with is actually configuring your GPU before you even use Retorarch. So if you use NVIDIA, there's something called the NVIDIA control panel. You go to the arrow and then you open the NVIDIA control panel. I want you to get in there. And what we're going to do is we're going to change our global settings to be as low latency as possible. Now, depending on your settings, you might not like this because you want, VSync and all this stuff. But if you're going for pure low latency like I do, go ahead and follow my setup here. I forgot to turn that one on. And some of these settings are hit and miss. Just try to copy what I have. The big ones to watch out for are definitely VSync and triple buffering. Make sure those are off. And then there's a one at the bottom called pre-rendered virtual reality frames or something like that. You want to set that to 1. Also in power management, go for prefer maximum performance. And make sure, even though it seems redundant, to set your main GPU as your processing unit. That way there's no confusion with some games and programs. They're not trying to run like your crappy Intel built-in GPU. You're running your main graphics card. Mine's a GTX 970. So these settings are actually pretty critical, especially the, like I said, triple threading or triple buffer and VSync. Make sure those are disabled. So we got that applied. Now we're going to open Retorarch. And there's a number of ways you could begin. Oh, I was thinking I'm going to make a ROM folder here. And conveniently I have a Dodonpachi ROM. In this guide I can't tell you where to get the ROMs. I don't think that's legal, but I think we all know where we get the ROMs. From our spare PCBs, right? In our closet, that Dodonpachi PCB you have laying around, just go ahead and rip the ROM right off there and put it in that folder called ROMs. So the first thing you want to do is you want to change to full screen. That's actually really important. And you want to change windowed full screen. You want that off because that can introduce some lag having it windowed. There's some settings here we'll come back to later, so we're just starting with the basic ones. Threaded video, make sure that's off for sure. That's no good. VSync, even though we have it off on our GPU, play it safe and turn it off on here too. GPU hard sync, this is important. Get that on. You need that on. And then bilinear filtering, I don't think it has a lot to do with input lag or anything. I like to turn it off because I play on a CRT, so sharp pixels don't bother. They look better on CRTs, so. But if you play on, a modern display, then I guess leaving it on might be better. It's just how sharp the pixels are. So now we're going to go to input. And you're going to want to make sure poll type behavior is set to early. This is because we're using run ahead, and it would be kind of pointless if we were polling it late. So make sure you're polling early. And then we're going to go to the input binds here. And for me, I miss it on here, but I like to configure a button to a load state. So I should have configured a button to a load state. And then I like to configure another button to the menu toggle. That's actually really helpful. So just go ahead and do that. Configure your menu button. And then back out using backspace. User input binds. Make sure when it says user one device index, sometimes this won't be enabled for some reason and you can't get your controller to run. You're like, what the hell? It's because it's just not on the index. So make sure to just click over and it'll find your control stick. Also, I don't think you can just plug in your control stick while Retorarch is on. So you have to plug it in and then run Retorarch for it to recognize it. So bind all, I'm just binding my buttons. I use an arcade stick, so. And you know, with certain games too, you kind of have to trial and error to figure out which buttons correspond to, you know, bomb or to rapid and all that. So it's a little bit of trial and error there. So I have it memorized, but this process may not be as smooth for you. And then on this part, if you're doing bind all and it has all these, you know, analogs and stuff, and you don't use analogs, just hit the escape key. That's what I do for those. Just hit escape on all the ones you don't use. And then we're going to go to latency here. Our GPU sync, yeah, we want that on. Audio latency, leave that at 64. I'll leave those at 0. Poll type early. Run ahead latency on, definitely on. And then we want 2 frames of run ahead. This will change from game to game, but 2 frames for Dodonpachi is the way to go. And then make sure use second instance is on as well. If your computer's kind of wimpy, it might not be able to do this, just a warning. And if in that case, just use shmup main for a weaker computer. This is important right here. I've got the frame throttle. Go in there and make sure it's set to 1x on the frame throttle. That becomes really important later on when it comes to setting the proper frame rate. So make sure that frame throttle is on 1x. And I put on the display frame rate, and then I turned off the frame counter just because it annoys me. So with all that, now make sure you see this quit Retorarch. Make sure when you leave Retorarch, do not hit the escape key because it will forget everything. Make sure you go to quit Retorarch whenever you exit it. So you're going to go to download core, and you're going to download Final Burn Alpha. This is the core we're going to use. This is the one. So once you get that downloaded, just back out. Load content, and you're going to set your directory here. I kind of fumble around a little bit trying to remember how to do it. Yeah, nope, this doesn't have anything to do with it. Then I remember, oh, you have to go to the options over here, the settings. You go down to directory at the bottom. I'm trying to remember what to do here. Directory at the bottom, there I go. And then you go to, what is it? File browser. And then you set the file browser. I have to go back up to find it. You set the file browser to the ROMs folder. So you go through and you find your ROMs folder, which if it's on your desktop, it'd be user, your name, desktop, and there it is, ROMs, and then use this directory. Then it's set to that directory, so that when you go to open the game, you go to load content, start directory, and it'll go right to the ROMs. I'm trying to remember how to do this. There we are, and there it is. So we're gonna run our totally ripped Dodonpachi ROM that we got from our PCB. And this is just to show you, now already if you look at the bottom left, the frame counter is correct. That's because I uninstalled Retorarch, but it remembered my settings. So when you do this, it'll say 60 frames. It won't be the correct frame rate, but I'll show you how to get the correct frame rate. So you launch the game, and you start the game, and then you remember, wait a minute, something's not right here. Rapid fire is not enabled, right? And this is just a quick look at. Look how smoothly the game runs. Audio sounds good. Video looks great. It looks like you're playing in shmup mode. Like, when you get the correct frame rate, it makes a world of difference. So then you remember, oh crap, yeah, how do I get to the service menu? So what you do is you go to in-game options, then diagnostic input here, hold start. Then, now you hold your start button that you configured, and you get into the diagnostics. And then you can turn on your rapid fire. That's a big deal breaker if you can't figure that out, because it's pretty important. So then after you get it, then you just hit start, hold start, and it'll relaunch the ROM. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to properly set the frame rate. So it'll be, for Dodonpachi, it's supposed to be 57.5. And when you do this without doing the method that I show you, Final Burn Alpha will just run it at 60, so it's actually kind of overrunning the game. So we don't want that. We want to get the correct frame rate. And here's how you do it. So you're going to go to video options. It's taken me a minute to navigate these menus and remember what the hell I'm doing here. Okay, video. And then you're going to go down and you see this vertical refresh rate. Go ahead and just set that to 59,900 because it doesn't matter what you set it to, just lower it basically beyond something around 5988, just lower it a little bit. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go to configuration. Oh, sorry, at the bottom, configuration override options here at the bottom. I'm trying to remember, there's so many damn menus in this thing. But then it comes back to me. Configuration override options, save game overrides. Make sure it's game and not core. Save game overrides, hit enter. And it doesn't give you any kind of prompt or anything. You hit enter and you wondered if it worked, it'll just back out. So, now make sure you do not hit the escape key. I did right here, and it ended up forgetting everything I just did. Make sure you go to File and then Exit. Do not hit the escape key. So then we're going to open the file location of Retorarch. We're going to go to Config, Final Burn Alpha, and there's the Dodonpachi. Your computer asks you, how do you want to open this? Just tell it to open it in Notepad. Because if you've never opened a config file, your computer doesn't know what to open it with, so just use programs and then Notepad. So then you're going to scroll through this. This is all the code, and we're looking for a frame rate here. And there it is, 59.84. That's one we set, remember? That's not actually the frame rate we want. We want 57.5. The thing is, with Dodonpachi, with Final Burn Alpha, if you put 57.5, it'll bump it up a little bit. For some reason it adds 0.25. So instead put 57.25 because for some reason the emulator adds 0.25 frames. So whenever you want a frame rate, just subtract 0.25 frames from it. And see, I'm just showing you, because I hit the escape key, it forgot everything. So I ended up having to go back and redo the entire process. So do not hit the escape key. But we'll jump ahead in time to when I fixed it. And do some tests, and I want to show off basically how it runs, how it looks, especially when it comes to getting accurate slowdown. It looks like it's getting accurate slowdown to me. It feels like it. The audio sounds great. Everything sounds really good. I have no idea what I'm doing right now. Oh, for some reason, I had to redo the rapid because it forgot everything, including the ROM settings, so I had to go back and redo the rapid. At any moment now, it's gonna jump cut forward. And here we are. So this is just showing stage 5. I wanted kind of like a busier, or stage 4, I just wanted kind of a busier section to show that it holds the frame rate correctly and doesn't act weird or anything. Now, if you're judging me for my playing right now, I'm just trying to show off the game. So I just bombed through the first 4 stages or whatever, I didn't care. So I'm just trying to show off the game, I'm not trying to hit high scores or anything like that, so. And notice it, see, even though we set it for, for here I put a save state just in case I missed the glitch or died. I didn't want to redo everything. So I save stated right here. But I ended up not needing the save state, which is cool. And sometimes notice the frame rate will tick up a tiny bit, but I mean, I doubt the PCB is locked in at 57.5 anyway, so. And happy day for me, I get the glitch the first try there. Again, my score is shit because I just bombed my way through the first 4 stages. I wasn't even playing. I wanted a boss because I wanted to show that the explosions sound correct. Those, you know, those are the types of sound effects that would sound a little off. And this section is a great section to show because it kind of depends on getting accurate slowdown, otherwise you get murdered. So I chose to show this section just to show that the slowdown is, to me, feels pretty accurate. I don't own a PCB, but it feels close to what Shmuplane does. Now those explosions, I don't know, I think that might be just a Final Burn Alpha thing with that explosion sound effect, but okay, we're gonna jump ahead to another busy section, another slowdown section, and here I just rapid fire as much as possible to get it to slow down. So I put myself in some weird situations, but it's just to try and show the slowdown. So that's pretty much it as far as showing the game off. I think it looks and feels great. And to confirm, so after I did all these settings and everything, I wanted to make sure that I was still getting that 1 frame of delay. So I went back and redid the input lag test. And here we have frame 0. Frame 1, bomb activates. Yes. From that clean install, following these directions, if you're using a CRT monitor, because modern monitors will not because of the display lag, but if you're using a CRT and you follow these directions and you're using a somewhat decent computer, you should end up in the end getting only 1 frame of lag. Now since PCs aren't uniform, arcade sticks aren't uniform, there's a lot of factors that could end up, you know, changing that, but This is the most comprehensive way I could think of to try and show you guys how to get this low input rate. And again, the bomb activates on 1 frame. And this one's interesting because if you look here, the bomb does activate on frame 1. But look, you see how the B's still ghosting? That's not because of input delay. That's simply because the lower frame rate of the game and the camera is at 60 frames per second. So the camera is moving faster than the game. So even though the game responded, the screen had not completely, refreshed to where that bomb, there was some ghosting is I guess what I'm saying. So that's it. Hopefully this helped everyone out. Thanks for watching. I know it was a long tutorial. I didn't feel like really doing thorough video editing. I did quite a bit, but if there was parts of dead air or boredom, I apologize. But this is more an educational video than entertainment, so have a good one.